This innocent-looking block in Katara has stirred up a fierce debate for 3 years, with moves to set it up like the Parklea markets in Sydney's west. Local business people say it's unfair, as markets can be set up more cheaply than individual shops.
We believe that there should have been certain additional research made into that. We believe the effects financially on the business community that we have in the region is going to be astronomical.
One report estimates the costs to nearby businesses, including the CBD, to be around $45 million in lost sales. In an already tight economy, it's believed that could be the difference between survival and shutting up shop. Newcastle Council has called for more reports before the Katara markets can go ahead. The project is linked with the redevelopment of the old store building, a plan which has received community support. The developer owns both blocks of land.
We want to see the store operating before we approve the DA for Katara.
Another plan which has raised the ire of inner-city shop owners, parking meters. Council says it will cost between 40 and 50 cents per hour to park in the CBD, although around 500 spaces will be free. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
At a presentation in Mayfield this afternoon, graduates of the New Work Opportunities program were handed their certificates and hopefully a new start in life. Many are long-term unemployed and took up the jobs restoring the Walls End Gazebo and Sandgate Cemetery in a bid to build their confidence and learn some new skills. But with the programs working only to improve the trainees' ability to perform a job rather than to create new jobs, there are no guarantees that these people will be able to find employment.
Hopefully it'll go a bit further and come up with some sort of work out of it, but if nothing comes out of it, I have enjoyed the 6 months being there, you know. I thought it was great.
I'm no worse off. I think I'll be pretty well, yeah.
A new group will now take over the restoration work. Special conditions on the licence include a community liaison committee and a shop front where residents can gain information about the work. Member for Waratah John Price is opposed to the mine but has welcomed the move for community involvement as long as it's meaningful.
So it won't be a completely toothless tiger?
If it's Mickey Mouse, they'll hear from me.
A 2-year time limit has been placed on Donaldson projects for the exploration of the open cut. The coal reserves at the Weekleys Drive site are estimated at $1 billion.
Newcastle Falcons coach Tom Wiseman had his work cut out today. The side has had a couple of weeks off the NBL scene and today he meant business.
The team has practiced well all week. It's sort of good to get that bad one out of the way and then go after it, and I feel that mentally the team will be really focused on the job that we have to do tomorrow.
The Falcons have been put through an intensive fitness program during the short break, hoping to consolidate their position in the top 8. The team is on a roll after recent wins against Geelong and Perth. They were both played at Newcastle's Entertainment Centre, but Wiseman refuses to underestimate the strength of the Gold Coast, especially on their home court.
They have not won many ball games this year, but they've been in the ball games, and they're a danger team. And it's the kind of team that unless you're focused and unless you're really playing up to your best, you pay a price for it.
A bonus for the visitors, up-and-coming star Ben Pepper is back in the team from injury. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
Councillors volunteering their Saturday to listen to issues from airport noise to population control. In local council terms, it's a novelty, and the idea struck a chord at Port Stephens, speakers and onlookers packing the public gallery.
If you're going to have policies, then you've got to consult. You've got to expand your democratic views. You've got to expand the rights of people to express their views.
Oh, I think it's marvellous. I think it's long overdue.
Speakers booked a place at the public forum to give their ideas on the direction Port Stephens should take to the year 2000 and beyond. Council is to release a 3-year plan and wants input on major issues. More public consultation sessions will be scheduled before the plan is released next year.
The placings 14, 2 and 11. The winner paid $5.40 and $2.40. The places $3.60 and $2.80. The Quinella $44 even. And the trifecta $393.50. Now to Sydney, race 7 at Randwick, and it was over 1,800 metres. The placings 3, 7 and 1, the Quinella paid $16.10 and the trifecta $191.10. Last night's match at the Greenhouse was always going to be close. Newcastle needed to win to keep in the hunt for the finals, while the Gold Coast were hoping to end its season on a roll. The home side slipped away to an early lead. Peter Harvey kept them on top before David Van Dyke slammed Newcastle back into the match. A three-pointer right on quarter time levelled the scores at 29 apiece, and the supportive home crowd had more to cheer about when the Rollers returned and Harvey found Torrens. 74-67 at the last change, and the Gold Coast were looking at an upset victory. Matthew Rees had other ideas with 2 3-pointers in quick succession. In the last minute, the Rollers thought they had it wrapped up when the ball finally gave in to gravity. But with seconds left, Scott McGregor forced a foul and a 1-point win for Newcastle. No sooner had referee Paul McBlain signalled the start of yesterday's match at Brookvale than Mark Glanville was injured. The Knights' second rower came up clinching his neck. X-rays have ruled out serious damage, but the lock will need physiotherapy to be fit for next Sunday's game against Illawarra. In the Newcastle Rugby League, 2 matches were washed out today. They'll be played midweek. In the completed games, the 12-man Central outfit upset Maitland and Souths beat Curry. The Lions were up 9-4 at half-time, and despite being a player down for the final 10 minutes, South skipper Darren Forward took on the Bulldogs by himself. In the NBN Soccer League, Wallsend beat Pasminco, Deloraine thumps Cessnock, Broadmeadow drew with Maitland, and minor premiers Western have gone through the competition undefeated with a 2-0 victory over Highfields. It's the first time in the club's 89-year history that the first-grade team has achieved the feat. The win set up after Neville Smith's goal 10 minutes into the match. Both sides keen to attack, the game lived up to the expectations of a grand final preview. And Newcastle's Michael Guest has started the New Zealand stage of the World Rally in Fine Style. He's leading Group N after the first leg of the race. The Knights have won only one of their last 7 matches, and despite a few unlucky breaks, the critics have come out in force. For the first time this season, there is doubt Newcastle will be playing finals football. Bookmakers have almost written the team off. 4 weeks ago, they were given a 10-1 chance of winning the flag. The quote now is 30-1. Even Malcolm Reilly concedes his side is no sure bet.
Next week, there is no tomorrows. Like, you know, we've got to make sure we knock Illawarra off and go on, and it's a one-on-one basis from now on in.
The Knights boss was disheartened from the weekend's game. He went to Brookvale confident of returning with the points.
Some of the options we took in the game, you really are struggling.
Today was spent reviewing Saturday's tape. Reilly is considering positional changes.
We showed no character at all in controlling the ball and controlling the field position.
And as for that hair?
I prefer not to comment on it, thank you.
The Knights may be sliding, but Newcastle's other national team, the Falcons, are on the rise. A win, albeit by 1 point over the Gold Coast on Saturday, has pushed the Falcons to 7th. The hero who sealed the match, rookie Scott McGregor.
It's just part of the game. I got fouled, so I took the foul shots and I sunk them, luckily, so it was great.
The Falcons play a charity match against Sydney on Sunday before their next league game in a fortnight. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
The push towards 2000 began a year ago when the Port Authority was corporatised, but the real work of redeveloping Newcastle as a major alternative to the capital city ports is only just beginning. Infrastructure needs to be changed and new sources of cargo sought out.
So you've always got to be looking out for new markets. You can't just bury your head in the sand and decide you've got it right.
According to the Minister, getting the port system right in Newcastle is of vital importance to the city's future economic viability, particularly as the traditional manufacturing base changes.
One thing I learnt when I first became a minister was just how important the port of Newcastle was to Newcastle and the wider region, much more so than, say, Sydney and Port Kembla.
As an indication that Newcastle could become a real alternative to Brisbane for general cargo in northern New South Wales, the Minister has appointed the Mayor of Dubbo to the Port Corporation Board. But determining the particulars of how Newcastle can capture those markets is yet to be worked out. That will be the role of the Strategic Development Study announced today. It will forecast the future demands on the port and the new facilities needed to meet them. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. Queen's Counsel Barrister, Attorney General and Industrial Relations Minister Geoffrey Shaw is as proud as a new father of his Industrial Relations Bill. Contrary to normal practice, he's drafted the law with his own hands and is not afraid to blow his own trumpet over it.
Federally, industrial relations is in something of turmoil, whereas in New South Wales we've quietly and I think efficiently got together a package that's broadly accepted.
Some of the main changes to be made when the law comes into force in September are a simplification of the industrial court system and a requirement that enterprise agreements be approved by the Industrial Relations Commission. That body will be given more power and the technicalities once plaguing the unfair dismissal provisions will be eradicated. Although it's Labor government legislation, in a room full of business people, the Minister was talking the language of employers.
Through making sure that awards don't contain archaic and artificial practices or barriers to efficient employment.
The laws don't go as far in deregulating industrial relations as the federal system, and the Minister says there are bound to be inconsistencies. Which eventually prevails is likely to be a question answered by the High Court. Laura Saperstein, NBN News. Money. Kids love it, but they don't know how to hang on to it. In fact, many big kids also don't have the knack of saving.
But it really concerns me at the moment to see the average Australian family burdened by a car loan, a mortgage, 3 credit cards, a store card.
According to Paul Clitheroe, Australia still hasn't got over the 80s philosophy that money is there to be splashed around and that debt is good. In fact, so naive are we about sensible spending that Paul believes we need to be caught before the old dog new trick syndrome sets in.
So I actually think we really lack the basics of money training where they belong, which is right back in the schooling system.
Just as sex education took some time to be accepted in schools, Paul believes money ed may still be a little while off. But within 10 years, he says it's likely to be an integral part of most school syllabuses.
Huey Webb loves his orchids. In fact, it's become an obsession that threatens to take over his garden in the Newcastle suburb of Adamstown. He's one of a handful of orchid enthusiasts committed to preserving rare species. But, he says, legislation is making the task so much harder.
Many trees are being chopped down for the wood chip market to make area room for housing, for farming, and the plants are not allowed to be touched because they're governed by the Trade in Endangered Species Act.
Mr Webb wants to see legislation modified so that orchids and other plants on the endangered species list can be collected from areas that are being cleared. Unless this happens, more rare native orchids may be wiped out.
Well, many people are concerned about this, but nobody has bothered to force the issue until now.
Mr Webb's campaign for legislative change includes a petition, which he'll take to the Gosford Orchid Spectacular. There, he's hoping like-minded people will show their support. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Research shows that young offenders often have trouble settling back into society, many going on to commit further crimes. The Breakaway program is designed to help them break out of the crime cycle.
We've got research to show that the first 12 weeks after a kid is discharged from an institution is the really problematic time for them. They often find it problems in their families, problems finding jobs, problems getting back to school. The work of these people is to support the kids during that period of time.
Set up by the Department of Juvenile Justice, the scheme is being run through welfare agencies throughout the state. Today at the scheme's Newcastle launch, the Hunter Mission was presented with a $90,000 cheque to conduct the program for the first year, having been selected over several other agencies. 2 people will now be employed as breakaway workers to help young people leaving custody find a new direction.
We provide support to young people as they come out of care, and that support's provided either if they go back home to their family, we would provide support in the home. If we need to provide accommodation for them, then we'd look at some options for accommodation once they leave care.
Around 2,000 workers marched down Newcastle's King Street fighting mad over the Howard government's industrial relations reforms. It was the biggest rally in the city since the Vietnam demonstrations of the early 70s. Unionists say the government is trying to attack the award system to force workers into individual contracts and destroy the Industrial Relations Commission. Delegates took a petition to Liberal Senator John Tierney, Senator Tierney refusing to leave his office to address the crowd.
It's going more back to enterprise-based agreements. Under what we're setting up, people have the opportunity to go into these new agreements or stay under the award.
Earlier at the Newcastle Workers Club, ACTU boss Jenny George told workers not to accept any reductions to their wages and conditions. Following the controversial CRA dispute where miners fought against individual contracts, Ms George gave this warning.
Companies that go about implementing Mr Howard's agenda and reducing pay and conditions for their workforce, I think we'll find, like CRA, that workers will fight back.
The union movement has promised more demonstrations like this if the Howard government's industrial relations reforms get through the Senate. Many of these workers here have already promised to meet in Canberra next month for a national rally. Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The Red Devils have had a mixed season in the NBN Soccer League. Their good early season form was spoiled with a slow end to the minor rounds, but the big test will come tomorrow. The match against Deloraine is sudden death. In the other final this weekend, Highfields play Hamilton. On Sunday, the Adamstown Rosebuds travel to Sydney to meet Bankstown in the State Soccer League. It's the team's first match in 3 weeks. A thriller today between Commonwealth Bank Cup heavyweights Glendale and Kadina High Schools. Playing in the competition quarter-finals at Edgeworth, the locals were down 1-0 before Adam Hicks levelled. Minutes later, a great solo effort from Heath Timmins put Glendale on top. But the locals couldn't hold on, losing 3-2, the winning goal scored in extra time. Unfamiliar territory for last night's clash with the Kings, but nothing unfamiliar with Scotty Ninnis or the explosive brilliance of local rookie Scott McGregor. There were some teething problems though, but on their feet the Falcons were nothing short of outstanding. Pinpoint accuracy across the court and Sydney held a slim lead until Moore hauled it in, and captain Butch Hayes flew and fell in style. But a 32-point haul for Isaac Burton kept the Kings in control. And while it was proving a headache for Falcons coach Tom Wiseman, the night was rated a huge success by organisers. Thousands of dollars were raised for young injured sportsman Matthew Carmody. Jonathan Upton, NBN News.
While his schoolmates are buckling down with their books, 18-year-old design and technology student Sean Rochford is strapping on his helmet to try out his HSC major work. It's a carbon fibre mountain bike, which Sean began designing last year and has just finished building. Teachers at Tuggerah's Corpus Christi College say it's the first time a student has attempted to build such a bike.
There are carbon fibre bikes on the market, but certainly nothing that's utilised the same skills and tools that Sean has on this one.
What makes this bike different from other mountain bikes is the frame design. The rear suspension is joined to the frame with a flexible polymer hinge. Normally, the suspension would pivot on a pin, but this design prevents wear and tear because there are no moving parts. Sean knew little about carbon fibre before he began the project and had never built a bike before.
Had a couple of big problems and I was going to chuck it in a couple of times, but I just persevered with it and it gives you a sense of achievement.
And while Sean put the bike through its paces today, it's the HSC judges who'll be the real test. As well as designing and building skills, he'll be assessed on logo development and promotion. Sarah Griffiths, NBN News.
Jim Woodger appeared in Newcastle local court this morning after police recovered more than 3,000 grams of marijuana from his Fennell Bay property on Friday. He said little in court until the police prosecutor made an application for the drugs to be destroyed. Woodger then said, "I don't want the drugs destroyed. Some of those plans go way back and could be used for medicinal purposes." Calling himself the professor of marijuana, he then told the magistrate, "I'm stoned now. I've smoked marijuana every day of my life for 30 years. Magistrate Col Elliott ignored him and made no order about the drugs, adjourning the matter until the 2nd of September. The hearing followed a public display outside the court when Woodger, standing on his car and wearing clothes in support of his cause, called on people to legalise the use of marijuana.
The Industrial Relations Minister toured the oat milk factory just outside Newcastle this morning. His message that all workers, like managers, can taste the cream if they wish to negotiate individual contracts. Later, he met in private talks with 2 Hunter Valley miners that are breaking away from their union to sign a working contract with the mining companies.
Well, it's a choice that miners can make themselves. If it's good for them, then we say go for it if it suits you, but it's your choice.
Controversial industrial relations reforms are set to go before the Senate to bring in radical changes to Australian work practices. Unfair dismissal laws are being altered, individual contracts offered, unions say award conditions are under threat. The ACTU is outraged by the moves. In Newcastle last week, 2,000 workers marched through the streets in protest. Another rally is planned in Canberra in a fortnight. 50,000 people are expected there. Mr Reith, however, isn't backing down, saying the union movement is in decline.
They've been losing members because unions haven't been worrying about servicing the rank and file. That is why the rank and file have walked away from trade unions.
Peter Ryan, NBN News.
The overhaul of the state's aeromedical services began last year when the state government called for tenders to operate from Newcastle, Canberra, Sydney and Lismore. All services, including the Hunters Westpac Rescue Service, are now supported by sponsorship, donations and government funds. But reports earlier this year suggested the rescue services might be taken over by rival tenderer, South Australian-based Lloyd Helicopters. The government's refusal to either confirm or deny the reports has led to increasing unrest among the current operators.
But we're very confident that the government will recognise the high level of expertise that the current service offers the Hunter region and renew the contract. What we're concerned about is the uncertainty and the effect that's having on the morale of the crew of the Rescue Helicopter Service.
Northern District Secretary of the United Mine Workers Federation, Ron Land, says he doubts mine workers would continue to work without the provision of the Hunter Westpac service.
I'm fairly certain my members would not work without the protection of the Rescue Helicopter Service, and by that I mean the current Rescue Helicopter Service. What the government seems to have lost sight of is the fact that the current service is a charitable organisation.
He also says the Federation would not offer a new commercial operator any financial support. Emma Ossian, NBN News.
Sovereign State paid $6.60 and $2.30. The places were $2.70 and $4.10. The trifecta $651.90. Now to the 7th, over 2,400 metres. Two dudes paid $20 even and $4.60. A rise paid $2.50 and $2.30 for Mountain High. The Quinella $104.90 and the trifecta $1,188.30. South of Sandown now, where the 7th was over 1,200 metres. The placings 13, 8 and 9, the Quinella $149.40 and the trifecta almost $3,000.